coming on the air at this hour with breaking news after the U.S. warned all day of a full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Russia overnight launched its long-anticipated attack on Ukraine.
President Vladimir Putin warning other countries that any attempt to interfere with the Russian action will lead to, quote, consequences they have never seen.
Russia cannot feel safe, develop, and exist with a constant threat emanating from the territory of modern Ukraine, he said, describing the government in Kiev as a junta of neo-Nazis determined to build nuclear weapons.
In the last few hours, they've gone from being civilians to now being soldiers having to fight on the front line.
How long would it take for a country to be left in ruins? And so make ruins out of someone else's life?
Weeks of diplomatic efforts
in the last 45 minutes, wait 20 seconds.
1 second. I am Andreja Bielskyte, and this is The War at Home. The nature of this piece is sensitive, and there may be stronger language used. For the purpose of preserving authenticity, minimal censorship will be implemented. Listener discretion is advised. Ukraine has always dealt with violence historically. On the 24th of August in 1991, Ukraine gained independence from the USSR and till this day continues to fight for its freedom and sovereignty. In November of 2013, protests and fights broke out in Kyiv's Independence Square as President Yanukovych talks with the EU and revives economic ties with Russia, their historical oppressor. In winter, protests turned violent, and despite the attempts of the public, Crimea was taken over via a legal document signed by President Vladimir Putin in March of 2014.
This morning, more unidentified pro-Russia armed militias controlling the streets of Crimea's capital.
Things settled in the media for a little while, until tensions started to rise again in November of 2021. Russia warned against Ukraine joining NATO, an intergovernmental military organization in Europe and the USA, which it has not in the past due to not hitting a certain criteria for consideration. Tensions kept rising in Eastern Europe, and warnings were given of a potential invasion.
They claim that this is a military exercise that is about to end by 20th of February, but we know that the numbers are not correct. Why should we believe that anything else is correct?
They were ignored, but they were never wrong. On the 24th of February in 2022, Russia began the invasion of Ukraine.
What Putin called the start of a military special operation.
As the media floods with reports of explosions, mass graves, rape.
Over the weekend, as Ukrainian troops entered the area, they say they found mass graves, more than 400 civilians killed, as well as reports of sexual violence. All of this as Russian troops retreated from the area. Today, we heard from French President Emmanuel Macron say there are very clear signs that war crimes were committed. He said
there is yet another voice that is muffled in the media, the human voice, voices of volunteers and citizens. It is the uncut truth. I did not have to seek far and wide to find those that have been affected by the war on a personal level. As an Eastern European individual myself, survivors were only a WhatsApp call away. Okay, so I did call them, and after a brief discussion over the phone, we have decided it would be much better to invite them over for dinner to speak about this. For context, Igor lives in England. When war began, his wife and children were still in Ukraine. There was only one thing that he could do that would be right in the moment: to bring them to safety. Igor flew back to Ukraine and brought back his wife and youngest child, as the oldest stayed back in Ukraine. Now they are here, sat with us, over dinner, telling their story. Where did you live, and what did you witness while you were in Ukraine?
I live in the west of Ukraine, in Ivano-Frankivsk. 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up from a very loud sound of a plane. It was that very scary sound, and at that point I knew war had begun. Ivano-Frankivsk was bombed first. This was a huge shock to me. I woke up and started waking everybody else up. We didn't know where to run, where to go. This was scary, very scary. We did not receive any warnings of war. We turned on the TV and looked through all the channels and they were airing ballet series as usual. Started to look through the internet and online. I found that at 4:02 a.m, they were reporting explosions live. They started bombing the west of Ukraine and targeting airports. We were the first and that was horrifying. We all knew this, but we did not want to believe for it to be true. We were at a loss and unsure of what to do. We didn't know what to do, how we could help. We didn't want to stay at home. We wanted to go and fight, but somehow we had to live through it for the first few days.
What was the hardest thing to live through?
The hardest thing is that everybody I know is back there. They are all fighting. It's difficult that you want to go back and fight, but you can't. Have a family and children. It is the most difficult that you want to put an end to all of this, but it's not in your power. Now that is difficult.
What do we not see in the media?
They
do not tell us our losses, but report on the losses of Russia. We were told that this information would only be revealed to us after the victory. This was to avoid public panic. All the people know because there are funerals and burials everywhere. They keep bringing even more killed soldiers back across many areas. This is all done on purpose, so the people stay calm and strong.
Do you think things will get better and is there hope?
The victory will definitely be ours. It may take half a year or more, but it will be ours.
Maybe at the end of August we can all exclaim, "Victory to Ukraine!"
Do you have anything you would like to tell to the listener?
It is not only Putin, but 90% of Russia's population. We thought it would only be the Russian government to blame, but no.
War is scary, very scary. Have you seen how they rape children? You've probably seen it online and know. If this is done by the Russian side, specifically if they are doing this, I think we should isolate from the normal community. Maybe for the next 100 years keep them away from the world. We do not yet know all of the horrors that happened and that are still happening. And poor Mariupol, I would like to tell everyone that life without war is beautiful.
Since the war started, our life has changed drastically. Nobody expected that about 90% of the citizens of Ukraine, including those that were pro-Russian, would come together and fight against the current invasion. It only took 2.5 months for everything to change. Everything has changed now, our entire life, because all of Ukraine has been unified. They wanted to rip us apart. For those that speak Russian, into Russia, those close to the Polish border to be sent to Poland here and there. Russia wants to take Kherson, but people went out onto the streets. For 2 months, people went out onto the streets, but people there were starting to get shot. They are just absolutely shooting civilians up. People left home with flags, but were empty-handed. They are shooting women and children and no longer care who they are or if they are armed or not. They did not look. For Russia to clear their name, they would need 100 years, maybe more. This cannot be forgotten. In the 21st century, to forget an event like this is impossible. During the Second World War, there was minimal information. Now information is everywhere. Everyone sees everything. Everyone knows everything. Everybody feared the Second World War, but nobody in the modern world could anticipate a war like this.
As Natalia and Igor said, there will be victory and there is hope. Although people are ripping the world apart, there are people also putting it back together. As I was scrolling on social media, I saw an interesting announcement by a student called Kian Gregory. This caught my attention and I knew I had to speak to him. Hi Kian, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
For the people that do not know you, please could you tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm 21. I'm a security medic, primarily
working for private ambulance companies, covering patient transport, private events such as nightclubs.
I've seen on social media that you have announced that you were flying abroad to help directly in Ukraine as a medical personnel. How did you discover this opportunity?
Ukraine itself was saying, we want people because, that's what I want to do. In the long run, I want to go into military nursing. And I was looking online and I was seeing on Facebook, there's this guy who runs a sort of medical charity in the Middle East, pretty much doing humanitarian support there as well. And he was saying, he wants to try and do a copy and paste what he's done in the Middle East straight into Ukraine. You know what? I want to get involved. Let's go.
How are you feeling about flying out?
I'm excited because, it's one hell of an experience. It's going to be something that's going to stick with me for life. It's going to make a difference. But at the same time, it's like you're nervous because there's so much that can go wrong.
What would you say is your main motivator for putting yourself into the scene directly and potentially risking your own life?
It's just something I want to get involved with. I can't really pin it to exact reason. It's what I want to do in the future professionally. If I can get experience doing it and can actually make a difference, then I'm going to do it. I've got some mates who live in Poland, uni students in Oxford, and then they've been saying about their families are, helping, taking in people, because one of them, he lives really close to the border. Another guy I know lives in Romania, and his family have been helping out one of the refugee points.
So once you posted the news that you were flying abroad, did you tell your mum? Was there any shocking reaction or?
Yeah, so literally I told my mum first, told a few close mates. Monday 14th, I'm going to Ukraine, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and screenshot it, put it on my social medias, just kind of announced it to everyone. Mum she's supportive and she's proud, but when I initially told her, there was like that 20 seconds where you could sort of see the gears whirring away in her head, and you could just see behind her eyes, she was like, what did he just say? No, surely he didn't just say that. Maybe, oh, what? She was interrogating me, to put it lightly, for about half an hour. Like, what are you going to be doing? Where are you going to be? You're not going to go walking into a mortar, are you? Yes, yeah, but yeah, she's very supportive.
Now, this question tends to catch people off guard, but have you got any thoughts or feelings you would like to share with us?
God, can't remember who said it, but it was like some famous medic ages ago. He said something like, wow, some people are fucking up the world or ripping it apart, breaking it, whatever. There's got to be people putting it back together. There's only like one or two of us here and there trying to do what we can to fix it. As long as there's people fixing it, it'll be right in the end. If I'm able to use this to, gain experience in the field I want, change lives, and hopefully come back in one piece whilst, trying to do what I can, I'll be sorted.
Thank you so much, Kian. Good luck and take care.
You too. Cheers, mate.
Bye. So while you were listening to this documentary, history is being written, and you are now part of it. Although as individuals it may feel like we cannot do much, we can only hope for a positive outcome and perpetuate the voices of those affected. We can all hope for a better future. To end on a more positive light, I wanted to end with a part of Natalia's and Igor's interview that was extremely precious. I would like to warn you headphone users though, the microphones could not contain our hope and excitement. Thank you for listening, and Slava Ukraini!
Раз, два, три. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
Україна
понад усе!